welcome to the One More Thing podcast. Today I'm joined with Dr. Larry Baucom. Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Well, it was an exciting weekend this weekend having author Brian McClaren in, and you guys did a fantastic job in just talking through the book, Faith After Doubt. And what were some of your takeaways from this weekend, just some of the highlights?
Well, I met Brian about 4.5 years ago, so we began to correspond a little bit, not a lot, but we had a lot of conversation then, and we've had a lot of conversation now. But his book that came out this year, when I got it and read it, I thought, oh my goodness, this describes us as Suncoast very well. And so I contacted him immediately by email and said, hey, I'd like for you to come in, and he agreed to do that. And it took maybe 6 months to get him scheduled. But once he was on. He was on stage. He's relaxed. He's my brother in many ways. He's in my era. We're almost the same age. We have a lot of similar experiences, and what he writes, we resonate. Mm-hmm. So I think that is a great background to see what happened this weekend.
Well, what's amazing, I think, from the Suncoast staff perspective and just the community is it was nice to have someone else come in on stage and just affirm that we're headed in the right direction. You know, there's a lot of times it can feel isolating and can feel like we're just kind of alone in this whole situation. And to have someone come in and just praise what Suncoast is doing was so affirming, and it just helps so many people. And I mean, all the conversations I had afterwards, and just even having a conversation with Brian, like he was just so complimentary about what Suncoast is and what we're doing. So it was just nice. And, you know, he's just so smart and is able to deliver these ideas at such a easy, palatable way. It was great.
Yeah. And Troy said it very well a couple of weeks ago when he said, Suncoast is like a unicorn.
Right.
You know, we didn't know anything like this existed. And in my conversation with Brian, he travels all over the country and speaks to many different groups, Catholic, Protestant types of groups, even interfaith groups. And one of the things he confesses in his book is that there are not many stage 4 churches of which we think that we possibly could be that. And let me tell you what those are. The stage 1 church typically is where the pastor preaches and he's the authority, and it's black or white.
Right.
It's just A or B. It's heaven or hell. You choice, and it's very outlined. You trust the pastor. He's trying to give it to you straight from God. And then as you get a little bit older, or as you grow a little bit, things get a little more complex when you start doing Bible studies on your own, or maybe you're doing some parachurch, Youth for Christ, those kinds of things. And you begin to hear things a little differently than what your pastor had said. And you begin to realize there's some things that are not all the same. And so things get a little more complex. But this is, but I'm going to do this because it's the right thing for me to grow. Then as you go to stage 3, it's the perplexed stage. So simplicity, and then complexity, and then perplexity. Perplexity is when a person goes, wow, what I'm being taught is not singularly believed by most of Christianity. As a matter of fact, it's so many different opinions are there.
Sure.
That's not just one atonement theory, but there's 5 or 6 atonement theories. And which one is the right one? Right. Well, that's not the right question. But the right question is which one is out of bounds and which ones are in bounds. And in atonement theories, I have a little different opinion. But that's part of stage 3 perplexity. And a lot of students, when they get out of school, they're so frustrated because they've been living in this deconstruction of some of their early beliefs, and their beliefs have transformed maybe to a higher level, and they go to a church that doesn't want anything but level 1. We want you to come and tell us what to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times young seminarians lose their jobs or they lose their way, and a lot of people leave church during stage 3. Stage 1 and 2, they kind of, if I don't get what I want, I just shift churches.
Right.
I feel a little discomfort, I shift churches. Stage 3, I don't shift churches, I shift out. And the largest group today of millennials are nones, which means they're not going to church. They're religious but not spiritual.
Right.
I mean, or spiritual but not religious. And I think they identify a lot with stage 3. We're out. Mm-hmm. We want to be spiritual, but we just don't. We're suspicious.
Right.
And for
good reason.
For good reason.
Right.
I mean, when a pastor comes on TV and says, "Oh, God has told me I need a second jet," come on. At what point is that credible?
Right.
And I don't remember the guy's name, but I just think the things I hear are so preposterous
Right.
in some of those areas. So at stage 4 is where you move beyond this disenchantment to say, I've got to go on anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Ricoeur, a French philosopher, came up with a stage called the second naivete. And this goes parallel with what Brian was talking about. So 4 stages: simplicity, complexity, perplexity, harmony. In Ricoeur's idea, it was you reach the first naivete is when you're in stage 1, and you just are, he doesn't use stages, but that's where you are.
Yeah.
And you're just naive. You think, we're the winners, we're the best.
Right.
You know, I grew up to where my church was the best. Everybody else was, there were wannabes of what we were.
Right.
Then you morph and realize, hey, those guys are really okay too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we're on the same team. Maybe they're just as good as we are. And then number 3, you go, I don't know that I agree with either team, but for me, the simplicity is where the first naivete, I was there, and then I moved downward, and I actually moved to the central headquarters of the denomination of my birth, and Becky worked for the headquarters, and I was rubbing shoulders with the professors and all the leaders of the denomination, and I began to see that these were normal guys, and some of them I didn't like.
Right.
Some of them were not very nice people. But so you get a little frustrated, and your naiveness is gone. But the second naivete simply says, okay, even though you've worked through this process, you don't give up on loving people and making a difference in the world.
Right.
And throughout my life for the last, I'd say 25 or 30 years, I've lived in the second naivete.
Yeah.
I realize that this group I'm a part of is damaged, dysfunctional, but I still choose to proclaim the good things of God.
Right.
And until the point where I left the denomination and started Suncoast. So now maybe I'm a 3rd or 4th naivete. I don't know. But I do appreciate the stages. Brian is a brilliant guy. He writes so well. He writes what we've been thinking and feeling. And for me, it just was an affirmation. You're on the right track. There's not many churches like ours in the country.
Yeah.
We're where we need to be. We're a church. It's not to say we're ego and we're it. Everybody's not.
Right.
We're a place that simply says we're going to love people. It's not about what you believe. It's how you live your life. And it's not about salvation as much as transformation.
Right.
And it's not about me as much as it is my grandchildren. Not about their eternal destiny that I'm afraid of, but I want them to grow up in a healthy community environment where they find love and acceptance and can embrace this for their lives as well.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I think the thing that echoed with so many people is that a lot of us just had been through this journey, and what you guys did on stage was articulate this journey that so many of us have been on for so long. And whether you stopped at stage 3, like some people, because a lot of people have, they've just stopped at stage 3 and they haven't moved past that. But articulating that in such a beautiful way, you guys did such an amazing job in, I think, restoring a lot of people's, for lack of a better word, just faith. Yeah. You know, like there can be a place for both, you know, doubt and faith.
Yeah. And one of the things he talks about in the book is called Faith After Doubt. When you reach level 1 and it doesn't work, stage 1, it doesn't work for you anymore. Your doubts of stage 1, your doubts are not negative. They're actually just a precursor, or they're an indicator that you're about to have a paradigm shift, that your worldview is about to change. So your doubts set you up for the next level. And then you get in that and you doubt that, and it sets you up for the next level. And some people, you're right, hit the deconstruction level or the perplexity level, and they morph out and they just live with their doubts. But I would suggest just trust the process.
Right.
Believe that there is something more, and there is. And as you transition into harmony, you realize it's not about what I believe or don't believe. It's about my community and my life and my ability to give back in so many different ways. And that, to me, it's not complicated, but it sure seems to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
Agreed. And it's so restorative for people. So I'm so excited that this weekend happened, and that it's going to be on YouTube. So if anybody that did not catch this weekend, please watch it. I encourage you. It is the quickest talk that will go by because it just flew by for everyone in the audience. I just know so many people are just like, I can't believe it's over already. I just wanted it to keep going. But do you have any more notes from this weekend? I mean, any other
No, I think we're excited to transition into more. I'm excited into the new series. I'm also excited to transition into some talks about people who are typically in stage 1 belief. What are they believing, and how do we get out of it? And I'd like to take a few weeks, and I'm working on that. So you'll see that coming up. I don't know what we'll label it, but it'll be there. And we'll talk about all these different components of traditional Christianity and how they need to be moved beyond to another naivete, or we see them in a different perspective. And I think it'll help us tremendously.
Absolutely. So, and then we got this new series
starting Epic.
Epic
starts this weekend.
So give me a rundown, just real quick. Just what's the premise of Epic?
Epic, first of all, Epic is a story.
Right.
It's a heroic story. It's usually someone's journey. So we're looking at all the epic Old Testament people. We decide not to go to many because there are other sermon series we want to do, but we're going to focus on Elijah.
Okay.
And it's an epic story from the time that, he finds his calling, he runs from God, does great things for God, and it's going to be a tremendous opportunity to get some great truth from the Bible, which, that's another story altogether.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Pastor. We'll see you soon.
All right.